the committee that has been established by the Prime Minister. And he looks so handsome today. Good morning, Minister.
Morning, Minister. Morning, Minister Vaz. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to start off commenting on the aspect of the shelters and to just also speak quickly to the fact that in the daily newspapers and in the media, specific reference has been made to a number of shelters, especially in Westmoreland, about the lack of basic needs, supplies, and lack of security. I just want to give the country the assurance that all the shelters that was outlined by the new Director General of ARDPEM is fully equipped, not just with food supplies, but with adequate security, water. I must point out that one of the problems they are experiencing at the shelters is that during the days, a lot of people go to the shelters. They don't actually stay at the shelters, but they go to the shelters during the day. So when one goes there, they find this huge crowd. It is not because the shelters is overcrowded. We have been working closely with the ARDPEM and the municipal corporations to ensure that all the shelters have the requisite needs as we get down into the thing. The numbers have reduced. Next week, we'll be putting some 300 workers of the Youth Summer Employment Program to go into the affected areas to do an actual count of the numbers of persons in the shelters. And once that is done, we will take a determination how many shelters will be closing down or how many shelters must remain in operation. So I want again to dismiss the mischief that is being made, that the government is not doing anything about the shelters. It is not true. There was a big story about a rape case in Montego Bay following detailed investigation. In this room last week, the question was asked of the Prime Minister. There is no truth to any such story, and I want to put that to rest. The other area that I want to touch on is the backlog of garbage collections and the debris as an effect of the hurricane. I had announced the National Cleanup Campaign, which I will speak to next week, not this week. But just to say that the National Solid Waste Management Authority have been engaging more trucks, more contractors. They have been working 24 hours around the clock in the affected areas to reduce the backlog of garbage collection. I am urging the country to be a little bit more considerate. You know, we are disposing of the waste. A lot of people now is doing spring cleaning. It's coming now to Christmas. So it's not only debris from Melissa we're seeing, whole fridge mattresses, everybody throwing them out now. And it is going to be taking some time. I can only say to the country, and Mr. Gordon have said so, we are asking for some patience, some level of consideration. They are working, and I also want to make the point that based on the number of trucks going to our landfills, it is difficult for a truck to make 2 trips a day. The lines are extremely long. So we are urging patience as we continue to improve on that area. On the weekend, I was in Falmouth, and I must tell you that the issues in Falmouth are real. The municipal corporation have commenced work yesterday to clean up the market so that the vendors, and I notice a lot of commercial activities in Falmouth, which is very good, despite the fact that they have no electricity there, but a lot of Jamaicans have risen to the occasion and has find means and ways of having commercial activities taking place in Falmouth. And so the instructions have been given to the municipal corporation to commence a comprehensive cleanup of the town of Falmouth. They have started, and since yesterday they have started to clean out the Falmouth market. And once that is done, the vendors who are on the streets will be allowed to go in using the car park of the market to ply their trade. And I want to make this point. There has been no increase in fees for any services offered by the municipal corporation by me as minister. No such authorization has been given. So there is no increase in market fees. None of the services that is offered by the municipal corporation have seen any increase in fees. As a matter of fact, the vendors in Falmouth will be allowed to occupy the market without paying any market fees at this time. So I want to make it clear that we are not in the mood of increasing fees. So anybody who goes to the market and is asked to pay a market fee is an AI, not me. It's not real. And I want to make that point because it is very, very important, and I don't want people to exploit the situation. The government has not authorized any increase in any of the services for fees charged by the municipal corporation. The purpose of the exercise of the YSEP workers, as I said before, is to collect the data, to give ourselves a better opportunity to do the assessment that is needed. The ADPEM, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, and the local authorities have a vested interest in ensuring that the numbers of persons that we are providing for are the genuine people that really needs the relief supplies. Once we would have concluded that, we'll be moving to another stage, working again collectively across government to start to do the assessment on damage that has been done to homes and properties across the country. Some of that have already started by the Ministry of Labor, working with ADPEM and the municipal corporations, but in the parishes that have been affected mostly, those assessments has not commenced as yet because of the real concerns in those areas. Final point I want to touch is St. James Montego Bay. I will be meeting shortly with all the mayors from across the country to look at the state of local government and its resources. I want to say to the country that the local authorities have been severely hampered by Melissa's passage through Jamaica. When I saw the infirmary in Falmouth, tears came to my eyes. There's no way that that infirmary can go back to that location. And I'm going to be engaging Minister Grange because Falmouth is protected under the National Heritage Trust and a lot of the buildings in Falmouth. But we have to come to the realization that Melissa has given us a different light on how we operate. The fire station was devastated by Melissa. And so, in terms of going forward, those discussions have to commence because we cannot. I spoke with Minister Tufton yesterday. Adjacent to the shelter is a facility that houses social cases in the hospitals. over 50 of those patients have to be removed. They cannot go back to that location. So I am urging persons, those who have relatives who you can afford to take, please to take them, because it is just not possible to house people in those facilities. One of the infirmaries operating from a school. We are now looking to use the same approach to the field hospital as a means of relocating that infirmary when the time comes. I want to echo Minister Vaz's sentiments by saying that the government is working. There's no denying that we are doing the right things. We are listening. There are a lot of Jamaicans out there who was joining, but the country must understand that this is going to take time, going to take effort. It is going to take cooperation. And the last thing I want to say, I have to be controversial. We don't need the politics into the relief supply program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know JPS has to come, but I'm almost at 11. And for those of you who know, what day is today? I'm a teacher, you know. Class, what day is today? Today's Tuesday. Yes, it is Tuesday. But today is Remembrance Day. Only Minister Vaz is going to get the prize today. And I'll have a lollipop for you, Minister Vaz. So today is Remembrance Day, and that's why we're wearing the poppies. And for those of you who remember, class, Remembrance Day is a day where we honor members of the armed services who have died in the line of duty. It's an important date celebrated across the Commonwealth. There are many Jamaican men and women who would have served in World Wars I and II. And so today is a day that we honor them. And usually, why is it today? It's for you to remember in your history books, look it up. The armistice came into effect, which is kind of like the ceasefire and the ending, came in effect the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. All right? So that was World War I. That was when it came into effect. And so every year at 11 a.m. on November 11, we offer a minute of silence. And that's why I didn't bring JPS up yet, because we're almost at 11 a.m. for us to do that. And it's very important that we do remember the role that we have played in very important wars like World War I and World War II. And Jamaican service were really important members of the armed service at that time. And so today is one of those beautiful days where we can celebrate, and if you see any member of the armed service too, it's an opportunity to tell them thank you for what you have done and for your service. And so we're at 10:59, and I know my other watch says 11. So given that it is 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month, I ask you to join in a moment of silence to remember those who lost their lives. Please stand. Thank you, everyone. And now you can get your JPS update. Hugh Grant, sorry for the delay, but it was an important one.
Good morning. I will give you the good news, Minister. Thanks for that. Of my base. I'll start there. Good morning to all ministers of government. Good morning to our partners. I'm particularly encouraged to see my fellow partners in the utilities, Stephen and Stephen. Thanks for the continued support and partnership. Members of the media, and to you, the people of Jamaica. Let me first start by saying a tremendous thank you for your patience, your resilience, and your partnership as we continue to build after Hurricane Melissa's unprecedented devastation. I'm going to go right to the good news as the minister requested. Right as the minister was sharing that the Sangster Airport in Montego Bay is expected to be restored to service today, the good news is Sangster Airport has been restored to service. And a tremendous thanks to all who helped to make that happen. Today, 14 days after the passage of Category 5 hurricane, I'm pleased to share that we have restored service to 300,000 customers. That brings us to more than 64% of our customers now with power. This is a solid milestone given the scale of destruction that we have all seen. I had an opportunity firsthand this weekend to go to the Western region, and let me tell you, it's a different thing when you see it in person than when you see it from a helicopter. It's truly a devastation, and our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the communities, the families, and the loved ones who have been significantly impacted. We here at JPS stand committed to restore power as safely and as quickly as possible. And we continue to partner with local contractors and overseas contractors to help to facilitate that restoration. You may have recalled that I shared that prior to the hurricane, we brought in 71 overseas line workers. I'm pleased to share that since the passage of the hurricane, we have brought in additionally more than 200 line workers to help with the safe and timely restoration. In addition to that, we have also bringing in additional vehicles, bucket trucks, pole digging trucks that are expected to be here by this weekend. This will also be a key resource to help in expediting our restoration activities safely and timely. We're making steady progress in the eastern and central parishes. More than 95% of customers in St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine are already restored. And right now, we are working on the unique challenges of various customers to facilitate restoration. The good news is there is no widespread community in these areas that are currently impacted. We are also making steady progress in the parishes of Clarendon, Manchester, Portland, St. Mary, and St. Anne, restoring critical services, including hospitals, water pumps, town centers, and key economic zones. We heard the minister shared that we're now in St. Anne. We were able to restore power to St. Anne's Bay Hospital. We were able to restore power to Ocherius Pier, to Duns River, to Ocherius Town, and also to the infirmary in Prairie. This strategic restoration is not by chance, it's intentional and aligns with our overall restoration strategy. Now, attacking the hardest hit areas in the Western Jamaica is a challenge, however, we're on it. Because of the extent of the devastation in the Western parishes, this is much more than repair and restore. It's a redesign and rebuild of our facilities. We have seen whereby landslides have caused poles and other infrastructure to be significantly damaged, and frankly, we have to now reroute some of our facilities and redesign to facilitate restoration. The good news is we're making progress. Our strategy is to first restore critical services like hospitals and water pumps and town centers in these key economic zones. Within the next 2 weeks, power will be in Hanover and Westmoreland. I heard Minister McKenzie refer to what he's seen in Falmouth and Trelawney. Minister McKenzie, this week, power will be in Trelawney. We will have power in Falmouth Town, Falmouth Hospital, and also the pier, whereby we're supporting the return of cruise ships to that particular pier. We are already in the parish of St. Elizabeth, having restored Junction and Southfield and some nearby communities. We did this by doing some creative things on the distribution system to facilitate St. Elizabeth being supplied from Manchester. There is, however, a limitation to that, as we have built out in St. Elizabeth to a stage now whereby to go further, we would need the critical high voltage transmission to be restored. That has been significantly damaged. However, we continue to work that. We are already in St. James, as you heard mentioned. Service was restored earlier this week to Cornwall Regional Hospital. We have also restored some significant NWC pumps in the parish of St. James. The Catherine Mount and the Reading NWC pumps are now in service. We have also restored the Fairview Shopping Center and the Fairview community in St. James, so those people now are seeing the light. As of today, we heard whereby we restored the airport. The good news is also, by the end of today, we restore power to the Freeport in St. James, bringing power to the BPOs and stimulating the economic activity in that particular parish. Thank you, Minister. Another good news to share. Since we have been here this morning, power has also been restored to the hip strip in St. James. We know that those without electricity is asking the question, how soon will I be restored? I understand the inconvenience when there is no power. Some of our very workers here at JPS are part of the very communities that are significantly impacted. So I understand it. I get it. But be reassured that we are committed to be steadfast and strategic in our restoration activities. We are making progress in advancing our damage assessments. Frankly, some communities, we had limited or restricted access. That is now improving, so we'll only make greater progress with our damage assessments. As we make greater progress with our damage assessments, by the end of this week, I will be giving you more detailed updates in terms of restoration timelines and parishes and communities. My fellow Jamaicans, let me reassure you that JPS will not stop until we restore every community, every customer, and every business at this moment in time. Our teams are working 24/7, 7 days a week, under challenging conditions, frankly, in rain, mud, to safely and timely restore our customers. To our customers, to our partners, to the people of Jamaica, thank you for standing with us at this unprecedented time. Together, we are building back a stronger Jamaica. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You notice I didn't stand up this time, Hugh. I gave you all your time. You know why? You're giving us good news. So when you come with good news, you get all the time you want. All right, thank you. And of course, we all know when JPS is back up, our water systems can come back up, and Flow and Digicel can get to have their service restored. And so we're all very happy for all that hard work that is happening. I just have two quick updates from our cabinet discussions, and one is actually sort of an answer to a question that's been sent in by a journalist about the traffic and the fact that there is so much congestion that's coming from persons going to find their families and friends in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland and causing the tremendous traffic. In Cabinet, we did discuss it, and one thing that's being looked at, and there is not a final decision on, we're actually exploring the use of curfews overnight. So for example, in Holland Bamboo, if you see it, there are parts of it that's single lane. That does cause a lot of congestion. The teams have to go in and clear away all of that bamboo. That cannot happen unless we have the space and the area clear for us to do that. And there are other roads that we do need that to have no cars on it for a period of time overnight. And so we're exploring having some periods overnight where we will not have traffic flowing in the areas so that that needed work can be done. But once that decision is taken, we will come back to you and let you know which roads, which areas would be affected so that we can clear things out so that you have smoother passage towards St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. So that, look out for more information on that at our next press briefing this week. In addition to that, there's been a lot of discussions around temporary housing. There are several individuals and families that have been displaced because of the hurricane. Now, we have them in shelters, but that's not the best facility. And I've seen children in the shelters running around, and it's not the best environment. And so the government is looking at temporary housing facilities that can really honor the dignity of these people, because you want to think about it. You know, if we were in the same position, we would want to have a facility that we felt honored our dignity. And so whatever we want to do for ourselves is what we'd want to do for other people. And so as we're doing these discussions in Cabinet, we are looking at something that is good for people, not just, you know, throwing up something for individuals to go. And so those conversations are ongoing. We've already gotten some quotations in terms of what different options there are around the world. We're getting some international support in terms of what has worked, what has been used elsewhere. And so we're working through that. We do have Cabinet continuing on Thursday and Friday, and so we will be looking at that and getting more information to you on the temporary housing solutions. The other thing that I needed to point out before we get to the questions was the National Days of Prayer. And the Ministry of Culture has noted that the National Days of Prayer will be held on Saturday, November 15, that's this Saturday, and Sunday, November 16. And this came out of a meeting with religious leaders where a national religious and faith-based hurricane task force was set up. We're a praying country, and we know prayer works. And so this was very important, and you will get some more details on the National Days of Prayer that will happen this weekend from Minister Grange. All right, so we're going to now open up to the questions from our media partners who are here. And I'm just checking if there are any others online. All right.
Morning, Dion Jacksmiller, TVJ. First question, we heard the death toll and the missing. Is there any estimate, though, of how many other deaths are being investigated to ascertain whether or not they're connected to the hurricane? Also, there's been a suggestion to pass purpose-built legislation to frame the recovery effort. Is Cabinet giving any consideration to that? Third, continuing to ask about the Independent Oversight Committee. Last press conference, you told me Cabinet was continuing to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And my final question for now has to do with proactive disclosure. Why isn't there some kind of mechanism via online, website, whatever, to give real-time information in terms of the recovery effort. Money coming in, for instance, expenditure, things like shelters, recovery drops, relief drops, I beg your pardon, all that kind of information. JPS, NWC, all of that could be wrapped in so that anyone can access the information as opposed to this very tightly curated way of delivering information via the press conferences that's happening now. And for clarity, I'm not saying don't have the press conferences. I'm saying in addition to.
Yeah. All right. Those were several questions. I don't think I got all of them written down. But in terms of the oversight body, there is going to be an oversight body. And I should let you know that yesterday in Cabinet, we were looking at the overarching governance framework. Looking at what has happened globally. So our international partners were there with us, including the World Bank, looking at what has worked globally. Because one of the things you want is to make sure that whatever we do in Jamaica, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We had an office after Hurricane Ivan that worked. We also have what has happened overseas, and we're looking at what it could look like in Jamaica. And I think Cabinet indicatively approved a structure that has Partnership Council as that main body, but we're going to be continuing to discuss it some more. So, but whatever we do, there is going to be an oversight mechanism that's made up of civil society, the opposition, and the church as a part of that oversight. In terms of proactive disclosure, I think you are correct in terms of the financial intake, and this is something that we need to note. We're very transparent in terms of Support Jamaica and what's coming in through Support Jamaica. I give those numbers when I come here. There are lots of other donations that are coming in that go directly to other donors. There's a lot of money coming to the country. We don't have sight of all of that. What we have sight of and that we're giving you is what comes into the government of Jamaica and into ODPEM. So all of that we get through ODPEM, all of that is being provided. So I've given you the credit card ones. On Thursday or Friday when we have our next press conference, you'll get the direct deposits into the account. That's what we have. And then at ODPEM also has, whenever goods are sent in care of ODPEM from any donor and it's cleared, they have that inventory management of that. But of course, a lot of goods do come in, and it's not for ODPEM's distribution. It's for Food for the Poor or GEM or one of the persons that's operating. No, that's separate. And so we can give you everything from government, and I do agree with you that we can put some more information that's more readily available to everyone. There was something else you asked.
Yeah, but just before I go on, and just to be clear though, Minister, I was also asking for broader information. So
Yes, and from the telecoms and so on.
We've
yes.
been asking for ODPEM, for
Yes,
instance.
and I think Commander said he will start to give you the communities now.
Online, Minister,
Yes,
so
yes.
everybody can access. I asked if Cabinet is considering purpose-built legislation.
Yes, we are looking at purpose-built legislation. And if you look at the recovery efforts that had happened in other countries that had anything of this magnitude, there would have been a special office set up. It would have had specific legislation towards it, looking at procurement. You know, in our jurisdiction, in this country, procurement takes forever. I mean, we're trying in the Ministry of Education to do some procurements and they're taking years. When we're reconstructing Jamaica, it cannot take years. And so we're going to have to be very, very careful in defining what rules apply, what don't, and how we still have oversight. And so that is being worked on, and we believe in the next week or two, we'll have a submission in Cabinet, before Cabinet, to approve the drafting instructions for that special piece of legislation.
And finally, if there's any estimate of how many deaths, other deaths are being investigated.
I have that one for you. Under investigation, nine other ones.
Good morning, Jerome Williamson, the Jamaica Observer. You mentioned